We're joined by Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor of the city of Sylacauga in the August 26th city election. And Bryan, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jim Dale.
Good to have you with us this morning. For people who may not know, Bryan wears many hats in Sylacauga, including a pastor here in town. Talk about that.
Well, you know, Laura and I planted with other families. We started Christ Point Community Church in 2011. Here, started out in our den, just a small prayer group and coming together, and it grew from there. And from that, I'm proud to say we now, you know, have been in existence now going on 15 years, and God has blessed. We're able to directly support 4 foreign missionaries throughout the world, and we commonly are working in the community and doing things in our city. We've been very blessed to be able to do that.
And that's not all you do either.
No. I also I volunteer on many different areas. Of course, many people know me as Santa Claus. So we do that, but that's not, I volunteer a lot of those hours as Santa, but then it's also a business.
And it takes a lot of time too.
It does, from October to December. Now a lot of people have asked me, said, now if you win the mayor's race, are you going to quit being Santa? Well, if I understand, if I said I was not going to do Santa anymore, I would never win this election. So we will.
You'd break a lot of hearts.
I would, and we'll continue to do it, but it will be downplayed a lot. Right now, people aren't aware, but our Santa business, we're probably one of the largest and busiest Santa companies in the Southeast, because we're more than just Santa Claus. It's grown way past there. We do complete event production, so I'll pull away from all those aspects of the business.
And you're also a part of growing Sylacauga.
Absolutely. You know, I've been actively a part of the Commercial Development Authority now for, I think it's actually 12 years. I came on 2 years. It was largely inactive, and after that, some business matters came up. We needed to reformulate a quorum, and they asked me to come in and serve as the chair in order that we could conduct some immediate business that needed to be done. And so I came in at that time, and then after that, we made the decision, do we want to continue this operation, or do we want to dissolve it and give this money to the city? And in talking to the existing officers at that time, they said, no, we want to keep doing this. And so we did, and we continued to grow, and I was able to put together and work to put together a new board. And now, Jimmy, please bear in mind, when I took the authority over, it was completely defunct. We received no city allocation, nothing. We were responsible for bringing in, at that time, 0 tax revenue to the city. But since that time, we've rebuilt everything. We've got our EIN reestablished. We've got everything operating as according to the state law, state code, and federal laws. And we've now generated over $800,000 in annual tax revenue that's coming into this city every year. And on top of that, we had $12 million worth of added construction, which has happened in our city since my tenure in office. So it's been busy, and all those are volunteer hours. You know, I and my board volunteer that time.
Wow. Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor in the Sylacauga city election on August 26th. Some of the ideas that you implemented for some of the organizations you're involved in, you want to bring something similar to that to the city of Sylacauga as far as organizations are concerned at the mayor's office.
That's exactly my intent. I believe that in my experience, now, you know, Jimmy Dale, I have been actively involved in attending city council meetings for going on now 15 to 20 years. I have to quickly do the math on that. And now being actively involved with the CDA the number of times, you know, when somebody comes into the office of mayor, there's generally a 1 to 2 year, especially if they're new, 1 to 2 year learning curve there. Okay? I'm not going to have that learning curve. I'm going to be able to drop into place and get right to work because I understand how our city government works, because I've been in the trenches dealing with them, working through the processes. And it's been, I fully believe that I can do the same thing in the mayor's seat that I've been able to do in the chair of the Commercial Development Authority, and networking and building those relationships in order to help our city to grow. And there's 3 things we need to do in our community. We need to grow, and we need to grow, and we need to grow. We've got to grow industrially, we've got to grow residentially, and we need to grow geographically in order to incorporate many of the things that we want to do. We hear a lot of talk right now about residential growth. We need more housing. We absolutely need more housing in our city without question. More affordable housing is of dire importance to our community. But Jimmy, how does that come if we don't have new jobs?
Yeah.
So we've got to create new jobs in our city. Now, how do we do that? Well, one, we've got to zone more properties as industrial and advance our industrial development footprint, which we haven't done in 25 years on any relative level. We have the industrial park, but we're out of space over there. If new industry that comes in out there, oftentimes it's located just outside the city limits, which is strategic on those industry parks, because remember, if they're in a 5-mile square radius, they still get police and fire protection. So they get all the benefit of being in the city without being in the city. That's something we need to look at. We need to refocus on some efforts, and maybe we need to open up another industrial complex in our city and start looking at opportunities there so that we can locate industry there, which is of dire importance, especially now, jumping off what many others are saying right now, the Earth Project. Mm-hmm. It's an incubator for new industry, new innovative industry, which is coming into our state. We need to make sure that we have leadership that's in place that's going to walk hand in hand with these industries as they're moving in from startups and then begin to grow outside of the specs of the location of the Earth Project, and they need more space. We need to make sure that we're there and that we're ready for them, and we have a space for them so that not only do they start here in Sylacauga, but they stay here in Sylacauga.
You have thought this mayoral candidacy of yours out very well.
Thank you. We've tried, and I will tell you, Jimmy, I didn't want to do it. I resisted. Laura and I prayed and prayed and prayed until back this past fall when we had we'll just say the immigration fiasco. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, I saw a city on many, many levels, not just the mayoral, but on many levels without leadership. And at that point in time, I said, my children are here, my grandchildren are here, my life is built here. Sylacauga is my past, it's my present, it's my future. And I want to work to ensure the best for our community, for our citizens. And so I said, we can't, how does evil succeed? When good people do nothing. So I said, I cannot sit here idly. Somebody's got to do something.
So I noticed last night that City of Sylacauga council meeting went off, and there was all kinds of Facebook posts about trouble at the city council meeting. And some people say, when you think you've heard it all, you haven't heard it all.
Jimmy, it's a constant battle, it seems, in our city to maintain, or at least our city meetings, to maintain just a general decorum, a professional decorum, to speak to each other with brotherly love. And, we can disagree and still be courteous. And I understand there are people that say, Bryan, when you're talking about running for mayor, you're directing more, seems like you're talking about the city council and its actions more than you are about what the mayor's doing. Well, first of all, I love Jim to death, and I'm not going to downplay Jim, and I know Jim loves our city. I just simply think Jim's had his shot. He's been in the office for 20 some odd years now, either through city council or the office of mayor, and it's time for a change. And I'm praying that our citizens don't have a short memory and they realize everything that's been happening through the years. And they realize what's the disruption that's happening at City Hall right now through our city council. And there's a power structure there at play, and it's a collective. And so when I'm running for mayor, I'm not just running for the office of mayor, but I'm running against this power structure that's out there that doesn't want change. They don't want anything different. They don't have a vision. They don't want someone that has vision in there.
How can that be fixed?
Well, I think it starts with our citizens doing their research having the conversations with with the people that are running for office that are running, and asking the questions that need to be asked, and making the right call, making the right vote. You know, if we want change in this city, you got to vote it.
We only had what, a little over 2,000 people that voted in the last election?
Yes. We've got a city of 12,170 people. Of that, there's a little over 8,000 some odd registered voters. And then in our municipal elections, we average about 2,000 in turning out for the election.
What does that say?
That means it says that our city is very apathetic. They are complacent and don't feel that their vote really matters. And I want you to know your vote matters, and it's important. And we need you to get to the polls. There is no greater message that you could send than to go out and do your research, go out and vote for your candidate of choice. I mean, you want to send a message. Will you overwhelmingly vote Bryan Taunton for mayor on August the 26th without a runoff? You're going to send a powerful message to this city council.
What are people that you're engaging on the campaign trail saying to you?
I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. People are enthralled that we're running, and they're giving me a lot of encouragement. They feel that it is time for change.
What are some of the issues they are concerned about?
I hear a lot about the conduct at City Hall and the bickering that's going on, the lack of unity, the lack of transparency. And here's what people mean, Jimmy, when they say transparency, and here's what I believe that you're talking about and what I intend to do. I don't just throw that word out there. What does transparency mean? That means that you are adequately communicated with everything that's going on at City Hall. Meaning when the city council is voting on a resolution, then the public has that resolution. They've seen a copy of it. They know what's going on. We're not just talking about a number. So we've got to make sure that we are being transparent, we are communicating effectively. A lot of people are loving the social media videos that I'm putting out. And let me tell you, that's not going to stop. If I'm elected mayor, I'm going to continue to communicate with our citizens. And when city council is doing something that I feel is against the grain of what is the best interest of our city, then I'm going to let the citizens know about it so that they can have their say.
You were talking about apathy. You know, there are people who tell me that they go to the council meetings just to see what's going to happen. You know, it's gotten to that point.
I mean, you know, I had somebody just recently say to me, are you going to wear your red nose the next time that you go to the council meeting, because it's become a circus show. And, you know, I mentioned it the last time I was on here, but I think some people haven't heard it. You know, the conduct of city council cost us a very large development out there on Highway 280, because the developer, two of the partners, began to watch the city council meetings on YouTube, and they just simply said, you know, we have no confidence that we can go any further in this development and research for it. We're already about 10 grand in, and we just simply have no confidence that this council is going to be able to come up with the infrastructure and incentive package that we're going to need to do this. And we're talking about a $45 million development.
That's shocking.
It's horrific that this is what's happening. And I know that's going to upset a lot of the powers that be, but I'm sorry, but that's the reality. And at some point, folks, there has to be some type of reconciliation. There has to be some type of recompense, if you will, that there's a wake-up call to say that, you know, the way you conduct yourself matters. We have to be, you know, no, we're not going to be unified on everything, but we can always put together a unified front. We can always realize we're on the same team, even though your opinion and my opinion might be different. We can disagree civilly. We do not have to be disrespectful. We do not have to shout others down to make our point.
We're visiting a few more minutes with Bryan Taunton, candidate for Sylacauga mayoral office in the August 26th city elections. What are some other ideas that you have for our city if you are elected mayor?
Well, one of the first things that we're going to do is, if I'm allowed to enter into the mayor's seat, is we are going to put together a flood mitigation team. We're kicking that can around a lot throughout our city. We've had citizens come to our city council meetings, and they're literally broken in tears. And it just gets, the member of city council kicks it over here, the mayor kicks it over here, and this person kicks it over there, and there's absolutely no answers. And the reason for that is because there's no real plan that's in place on how we attack this. What we're doing is we're piecemealing, and we're doing here and here and here. Well, if you know any floodway, if you open up an area right here, but it's still blocked down here, what happens down the river? It backs up even worse down there when you fix this up here. So we've got to do that. Second, I want to increase our departmental communication between different departments in town. You look at a good example of what happened up here at the new pickleball courts where the old pool was. They tore down all that fencing, and it was set out by the side of the road. I'm not really sure where that fencing went. You know who could have used that fencing? The animal shelter. And if we had been communicating, then the animal shelter could have gotten that fencing and saved a lot of money, because at some point they're going to have it anyway. And now we're going to be forced to spend even more money.
And that was a topic I was going to mention, the animal shelter. It always seems like they're flooded with animals, and there's no end in sight, doesn't look like. What can be done?
The animal shelter, I think, is honestly, from what I've seen, has been treated like the red-headed stepchild of Sylacauga, if you will. And any time that they come in need of anything from city council, it's an issue, it's a problem. And the process of getting their funding, and that's not just for the animal shelter, that's for many departments in our city. The process of receiving their allocation or their needs is very convoluted. I think we can fix that. In terms of dealing with the animals and the influx that's coming in, and I think we need to start enforcing the existing laws that are on the books. We need to do that. We're taking animals from several places. And we need to make sure that the county, that other areas are also making a contribution to our animal shelter. We need to work with them to help them find the grant monies that they need. There's a lot of grant monies that are out there that are available from various companies, but nobody's working on that. We could have done the same thing there with our Parks and Rec and the new pool development, but they didn't do that either.
Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor in the Sylacauga city election on August 26th. Where are we financially in the city of Sylacauga?
Well, we're told that we're better than we ever have been, and they're working hard to protect what they have. I bring a lot of question to that. I find it one thing amazing, if we're in such good financial shape, then why is it that the only time, you think about this, Jimmy, tell me if I'm wrong, but every major paving project we've had for the past, 3 to 4 terms has been on a bond initiative, and it's been during an election year. I find that kind of odd, how so much seems to happen in that last year of office. But I think coming back to the rec, you think when putting all of that together and the initiative, the bond initiative, going in debt on all of that, certainly if we're in that good a shape, we could have curtailed some of that. And also through all of as long as it has taken us to get to where we are in that project, we've not looked for any private partnerships. We've not looked for any grants, nothing to aid in the development of the new rec center. Why? We're just focusing on borrowing money. We're going to borrow. You can't borrow your way out of debt. But that seems like that's what we're doing as we go from bond initiative to bond initiative to bond initiative.
Wow. Bryan Taunton, our guest this morning, candidate for the mayor's office at Sylacauga City Council, Sylacauga mayoral election coming up in August. Of course, there's council as well. And that brings me to this point. You read a lot about upstairs at City Hall and downstairs at City Hall. There's always something seemingly going on right there. How do you fix that?
Two ways. One, I've already pledged that one of the first things that I'm going to do is move the mayor's office from upstairs to downstairs, so that I'm in the middle of everything that's going on down there. I want to make sure that, and it's not anything against our city employees down there, I want to make sure though that everyone knows that, one, I'm engaged and that I am concerned about their concerns, and we want to make sure that they're being handled accordingly. Also, the other issue is we constantly have city council interference in the daily operations of city business. And when you have that happening, you have a city council member coming into city clerk's office, police chief's office, or whatever, and they're sharing their ideas on how this should be done or how that ought to be done. Okay, that's not their place. Their place is during the city council meetings, and they set policy. That's what they do. Not to inject themselves in the daily operations of city business. And this is what we're having happen up at City Hall. We've got a bunch of squabbling that's going on, and he said, she said stuff, and some of that's coming from interference from City Council and their engagement into the daily activities. And what happens then is when a sitting city council person injects their idea into how to handle a certain situation to a city employee, then that causes doubt in how the executive branch, the mayor, is handling the situation. We can't have that kind of interference. Let the mayor do his job and stay out of the way. Do your job, and that's part of what's causing a lot of the issues here.
Talk about the fire department and the police department. That came up at the last city council meeting.
Yes. There's ongoing pay structure issues, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've got a complete grasp on all of that. I know that it does, without question, seem that the police department asks for whatever they want and they get it. The fire department asks for something and they're shortchanged, they're questioned, or beaten down. There's an issue there. And I have to say, I believe Nate Osgood is probably, without question, one of the best administrative fire chiefs we've ever had in our city. And he's done a lot in terms of helping the provision of our fire department. There is now seems to be almost a competition between the fire department and the police department. We can't have that among our first responders. We work for the citizens of Sylacauga and their best interest, and we've got to be careful that we stifle this spirit of competition between those two entities in our city.
Finally, this morning, as we talked to Bryan Taunton, a candidate for mayor of Sylacauga in the August 26 city elections, talk to the people today about why they should elect you as mayor of the city of Sylacauga on August 26th. 5 minutes.
I believe you should elect me for mayor of the city of Sylacauga, not just because I was raised here, lived here my whole life, not just because my family is here, not even just because I love passionately this city. You should vote for me because I've proven myself. I have a track record that demonstrates my leadership capability, my administrative capability, my ability to recruit people to the table that need to be here. You look at the simple things that I've been affiliated with throughout my volunteer days here in the city, and see that every situation that I've been allowed to engage in, we've seen an improvement and we've seen growth. And that's what I want to do for our city. I want to create the growth that we so desperately need. I understand how we need to do that. I understand our need to start with industry and then move to residential. Everybody wants the amenities that you want, the bowling, or you want skating rings or things like that. Well, folks, that's not going to come until we grow our population. And that's one of our greatest challenges right now, because we are regressing. We're falling back by about 200 people every 2 years, and that's a trend that we've got to stop. So we've got to focus on advancing our population. We do that by creating jobs in our city, which then will inspire new home construction. We can also do that by expanding ourselves geographically and annexing more properties. The other thing that we've got to focus on in our city, I know everybody's talking about the trend in our safety statistics and crime going down in our city. And yes, it has. And according to the FBI data, it has from 22 to 23. We do not have 2024 data yet, so can't go there. But still, Sylacauga per capita is trending in the lowest 10% of our nation. We need to understand why. We need to understand why we're having issues in our police department and getting the personnel that we need. And I can help with that. I understand. I've ran large companies. I understand employee needs. I understand employee recruitment, and I can help in that area.
And certainly, as we close this morning with Bryan Taunton, you want to encourage everybody that is registered to vote should vote.
Yes. If you're not registered to vote, let's get registered. I think you've only got a few days. Actually, it may have already passed, July the 15th, it may have been. But if you're registered to vote, get to the polls. Do your research and get to the polls and vote. I cannot tell you how pivotal this election is for our city. It's of dire importance that you get to the polls and elect good people into office. Do your research, give them a call, ask questions. I believe every candidate out there, if given the opportunity, would love to sit down with you over a cup of coffee, or would love to get together with a body or group of people. If you'd like to do that with me, my number is 205-746-8864. Give me a call. I'll pick up the phone.
Open door policy?
Absolutely.
Bryan Taunton, our guest this morning. Bryan, appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Good luck in the campaign.
Thank you so much.
We got more coming up after this.